Hey everyone, today our topic is continues on fractions part 3, focuses on improper fractions today. Remember that all fractions have three parts. It has a numerator, that's the top number, the denominator on the bottom, and then in between is the fraction bar which separates the numerator and the denominator. The denominator shows the total number of parts. For example, our denominator here is 3, and if you look at the model, there's 1, 2, 3. And then the numerator tells the total number of shaded, in this case, that are shaded. In this case, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 today. An improper fraction is when the numerator, in this case 4, is greater than the bottom one, which is the denominator, which is in this case is 3, and it represents a value greater than 1 whole. You see in our model that this is 1 whole, but the total amount represented here is greater than. You had like 2 pizzas and they were divided into 3 slices each, and you ate 2 slices, you would have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4 slices out of those 2, and that's what we mean by our numerator here of the 4/3. So this fraction here would represent 4/3, and it's called an improper fraction. There are 4 types of fractions. Whole fractions are fractions that have the same numerator and the same denominator, and they always equal 1 whole. In this model here, you see that there's 1, 2, 3 parts. That would be our denominator on the bottom. 1, 2, 3, they're all shaded green. So that's where we get the 3/3. But as you can see, it is 1 whole is shaded. So that would be equal to 1 whole. And it doesn't matter if you have 4/4 or 5/5 or 10/10 or any number, as long as your numerator and denominator are the same number, it's called a whole fraction and it always equals 1 whole. Proper fractions are when the numerator is less than the denominator. Here, for example, 2/3, the numerator 2 is less than the denominator of 3, and the value is less than 1 whole. In this model here, you can see that we have 1, 2, 3 sections. So that's our bottom number, the denominator, but only 2, 1, 2 are shaded, and it does not equal 1 whole. Today's lesson focuses on improper fractions, and that's where the numerator here, 4, is greater than the bottom, the denominator, of 3, and it represents greater than 1 whole. And you can see that here. We have 1 whole right here, but this second one, even though it's part of it is gone, 1 part shaded, so combined it's greater than 1 whole. So for example, this top one would be 3/3, because 1, 2, 3 are shaded out of a total of 1, 2. 1, 2, 3 total. And then on the bottom fraction, we have 1/3. 1 is shaded out of a total of 1, 2, 3. And when we add that, 3 plus 1, we would get 4/3. Remember that when we add fractions, we do not change the denominator. That stays exactly the same. And then our last kind of fraction is called a mixed number, which is very similar to improper fraction, except that we represent one of the ones as a whole number and a fraction. So here's our mixed number. We have a whole number of 1, and then the 1/3 is our fraction. So again, here we have 1 whole, and then this represents our 1/3, and that is called a mixed number. Fractions are division statements where we divide the numerator by the denominator. So the numerator on top is divided by the denominator on the bottom. In this case, when we do a improper fraction, we would get a mixed number also. So for example, 4/3, if I were to divide the top number 4 and push the divide button and then the bottom number of 3, that would equal 1, and then we have 3 keeps repeating. I'm just going to stop at the 2 digits. So 1.33, that's like roughly, a third. 33 out of 100 would be about a third, a little bit less, but right about a third. And you can see that here we have 1, which is, there's our 1 whole, right? And then our 33 out of 100, which would represent our 1/3. The important thing to remember about improper fractions is that we can change an improper fraction to a mixed number. So for example, here, if we wanted to express this improper fraction, this model here is 3/3 plus 1/3 is equal to a total of 4/3, which we have written right here. This here is the same fraction, but we're representing, instead of an improper fraction, we're calling it a mixed number. This would be your 1 whole, and this would be your 1/3. And you can see that they're equal. We can see it up here, and we can see it here. The question is, how do you do that? And I'm going to show you right here. And remember we said earlier that it's a fraction is a division statement, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to divide. We're going to take our 4 and divide it by the bottom number of 3. 3 goes into 4 one time, and then 1 times 3, if you remember our division steps, would equal 3. I have to find the difference, and I get 1. But remember, that's our remainder, but because we're dealing with fractions, remember the 3 is our denominator, so it's going to be 1/3. And you can see that that's how we get our 1 and 1/3 when we change an improper fraction of 4/3 into a mixed number. Let's try another one. Our improper fraction here would be, this would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this is 8/8 plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6/8 would equal a total of 14/8, which I'm going to put right here. So this is our improper fraction. Notice this model is exactly the same, but we're going to show this as a mixed number. That's our whole, 1 whole, and then this would be our 6/8. So we know that they're equal, but the question is, how would we change an improper fraction to a mixed number? And we're going to divide to do that. It's going to be the 14 divided by 8. 8 goes into 14 one time. And then if you remember your steps, 1 times 8 is 8. Then we subtract. 14 minus 8 would be 6. This is our remainder. But because we're dealing with fractions, our denominator is eighths. So we would have 6/8. So our mixed number is 1 and 6/8, which you can see matches what we have up here. All right, well, hopefully that's been helpful today, everybody. Remember that our lesson today is on improper fractions. And an improper fraction is when the top number, the numerator, is greater than the denominator. And we said that we can change an improper fraction into a mixed number by dividing. All right, we'll see you next time.